Now in a previous video we already did the fuel pump relay control circuits. Now the focus is going to be after the fuel pump relay. So let's assume you put a new fuel pump in and the thing still doesn't work. What do you do now? Well, you come see me. That's me right there. Actually, I'm right here. Fuck you. For this, we're going to test the power and ground circuits at the fuel pump connector underneath the truck. So for these tests, I actually took the gas tank out of the vehicle to access the fuel pump connector. I'm not going to debate with you guys if you really have to do that. I'm going to try to throw up some stuff here where you can actually kind of see the fuel pump connector while the tank is kind of in the truck. I can tell you from experience, I'm not going to fucking dick around and try to wrestle my arms up in there and back probe stuff with the tank in the vehicle. It's not debatable. If you want to do it your way and you have a way that works for you, that's awesome. Maybe you've got skinny little girl hands and can, get back up in there. And actually I'm jealous because sometimes I wish I did too. But the whole point of this is just to show you how to do the power and ground circuit tests at the fuel pump. So let's get into it. So here's the 4-pin fuel pump connector for my Tahoe. It's got 2 pins for the fuel pump power and ground and 2 pins for the little floaty thing for the gas gauge. We're going to start with the power circuit, and it's going to be this big gray wire right here. We can't take any kind of tool and put it up in this side of the connector. If we do, we're going to deform the pins in there and we'll never have a good connection. So what we're going to do is take Mr. T-pin and go behind it. We're back probing that circuit. Now you're also going to see 2 black wires in here. We want the bigger wire, which is going to be this one. That's going to be our ground to the pump. And I know we said we're just testing the power, but I'm going to get both of them set up now. Just make things a little bit easier. So I've got my connector set up. I've got our super test light ready to go. There's a couple ways we can do this. We can actually test both of these at the same time if we wanted to, or we can test them individually. I've got my super long jumper leads. I'm going to go ahead and hook them up to the battery. I made these super long leads so I can have a good power and ground wherever I need it. Guess it's important to note that these leads are live right now. So the idea here is no matter which pin we test, that light should come on super bright. So we'll test the power feed first. So I'm going to hook a jumper from my ground up to my super test light. Hook the other jumper from the gray wire at the fuel pump connector to the other side of the test light. Now you're going to notice that it didn't light up. When we turn the key on, the test light should come on for about 2 seconds and turn off. But we're not going to do that. I've already removed the fuel pump relay from this cavity here. There's my test light, just chilling. Here at the fuel pump relay, we jump these 2 pins. Our light comes on. Pull the pin out. The light went off. So what that means is that from the output of this relay all the way back to the fuel pump connector, that circuit's good. Now testing the ground circuit on this pump isn't nearly as hard. What we're going to do is just reorient our jumpers. We're going to go to the big black wire. Then we're going to jump the other one to constant battery power. The light's on nice and bright. That means that the ground circuit from the fuel pump connector to its ground location, through the frame, all the way up to the front, it's good. Now we're going to turn it up a notch. We could actually have done both those tests at the exact same time. The way we do that, we're going to put one lead from our big test light to the gray wire at the fuel pump connector, and our other lead from the test light to the ground. Now we're going to do the same jumper test, 87 to 30. Our super test light is nice and bright. So we verified the full integrity of the fuel pump power in the ground. Just like that. Okay, so now let's just kind of go over what we did out there. So for our power test, we jumped the negative battery to the negative of the super test light. We took power from the fuel pump connector gray pin to the power of the super test light. And then when we jumped the relay, we completed the circuit and the test light lit up. For our ground test, we jumped power from the battery to power of the super test light. Then we went from the negative of the super test light to the big fat black wire in the fuel pump connector. And then we got the test light to light up. For our power and ground test, well, that was pretty easy. From our super test light, we just jumped power to the gray wire at the fuel pump connector, and ground from the test light to the big black wire in the fuel pump connector. Now I think that with the jumpers and all that, it might be a little bit tough to see what was going on, so hopefully this gives you a better idea as to what was going on. Now everything that was shown was with a truck that really does not have a fuel pump power or ground problem. And I'm not going to make up some fake shit. If your fuel pump wasn't working, you'd have to determine if you don't have power and or ground. You might not have both, who knows. And then determine from there, what the appropriate repair would be. There's no way that one video can show you every possible scenario as to why you might not have power or ground there. At this point, if you were, trying to figure this stuff out on your own, you can go on the internet maybe find somebody that may have said, hey look, I had the same thing and there was a break in the circuit somewhere in the wiring going from the relay to the pump. Might have somebody else that had a broken or corroded ground, where the fuel pump grounds. Really, I guess the point of all this is that if the fuel pump doesn't work, you put in a new fuel pump and that one doesn't work, this is what you do next. You have to determine what's missing. Or you just got a crappy pump out of the box. I mean, anything's possible. So that about wraps it up for the Tahoe fuel pump power and ground circuit testing. Now you guys know how the power and ground circuits work to the pump. I think in their entirety, because we've already done the relay, we've already done going back to the pump now. And really the only thing would be to get one here that has a fault in one of those circuits, and then using this information to determine what's wrong. Like I said, there's no way that one video can cover every possible failure. That's why people don't like these videos, but me personally, I love making them. I love anything to do with electronics. And believe it or not, this shit really happens. Where somebody's going to go and say, well, it sounds like the fuel pump's not working. We're going to put a fuel pump in it. And then they're wrong because they really just guessed. So you've done wasted time and money, taking the tank out, putting a new pump in, getting it back up in there, only to find out it doesn't work. And then you're right back here doing power and ground tests. A lot of people in real life don't agree to my approach to things like this. If I had a car with the fuel pump not working, the first thing I'm going to do is verify power and ground at the pump. I don't know why people don't agree with that. Most people that don't agree with that, they can't do what we just did right here. They can't test power and ground circuits. People like me figure the problems out. And in most cases, we figure the problems out before any parts are replaced. And a lot of people and a lot of shops are not like that. Over the years reading stuff on the forums, man, I'd read these posts where it's like, well, the shop put a fuel pump in it and it didn't fix it. Why the fuck would they put a fuel pump in it and now they're telling you it needs a fuse block? Well, the reason is because the fuse block was the problem from the start. These motherfuckers are animals. They'll lie right to your face. Well, the pump wasn't working. We put a pump in. No. Now the pump might have took out the fuse block. Y'all just stupid. You know what I'm saying? You're all just fucking stupid. Can't really do these tests with a multimeter. Really, for anything that's kind of higher amperage, like a fuel pump or a window motor or something, I don't use a multimeter for that. I use a big super test light. That way I really load down the circuits. I've talked about this before. Man, you can have one little tiny piece of copper touching the positive battery terminal and that thing will read 12 volts on your meter. You need something to really, load the circuits down, to kind of test their what's the fancy word? Integrity. So coming up, there's going to be some more Tahoe fuel pump related things. I took the gas tank out of the Tahoe. I replaced the fuel pump. I actually tested the sending unit and the gas gauge. So there is some more Tahoe stuff coming up, and I hope you stick around for it. Once again, the 15,000 subscriber special is coming. I know I've said this before, for us to get up the cash to fund this thing, to give away some cool stuff. It's all on us, and it's tough. But I'm not going to complain to you guys. I'm not going to put a donate button on my YouTube page. I'm not going to ask for Patreon or none of that crap. I don't want anything. Just watch, learn. Even though you just saw how to load test Tahoe power and ground circuits, you could just as easily go and do the same test on, well, really any vehicle. So stay tuned for more do-it-yourself repairs for the Tahoe. Subscribe and all that stuff. And one more thing before I roll. Since I try to do stuff in real time when it's relevant to when it's going down, I want to send a little shout out to somebody that, made a choice between two people. You've got people like me, and you can see that, what I do as far as automotive repair when it comes to diagnostics. And diagnostics to me is probably the hardest part of auto repair. I mean, there's a lot of parts changers out there, but figuring out what part to change is where people like me come in. So, to Mr. #fuckboy, whenever I get sunburn or maybe I touch a catalytic converter by accident, I like to use this aloe. And, if you guys want to borrow it, you can come over and help yourself. Figure you guys might be able to use this too, since you done fucked up, you know what I mean? You can't bullshit me, and you can't tell me that there's more money in bending exhaust pipes than there is diagnosing vehicles. It's all good though. I just think that would go down as probably one of the most epic burns in burn history. And it's very rewarding to me to see you get burned like that. I wouldn't even have done it to y'all. I gave y'all a choice. I said, look, I don't agree with what you want to do. Here's the deal. You ain't take it. And then you get burned like that, man. That's fucking karma. God damn. Damn. I wish I could have seen the look on y'all face. You know what I mean? It's a small town we work in. We hear what goes on over there.